Hello, 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 everyone. This is Coach Powell Training and Development. I am so excited to bring you today's episode of Coffee, Tea, You and Me. The whole goal for today's program is to recap our wonderful new training program, literally devoted to helping task force, committees, strike teams, program teams, teams of any type that are running a hybrid process to learn everything and do everything they need to do that effectively and efficiently. So if you know people who should be listening to this training, feel free to share it with them. Feel free to download it. Feel free to um, do whatever you need to do. Thumbs up, hearts, emojis, whatever you like in terms of sharing this. I want you to feel free to do so. The document is in the chats everywhere you look. If you're looking on Facebook, if you're looking on LinkedIn, if you're looking on YouTube, even if you're looking on Instagram, the documents that we're going to be talking to and referring to today, and even putting on the screen today and kind of going through overview with you today, are all there in the chat. So I'm so thankful for the opportunity to get to do this because this is my last live episode of Coffee, Tea, You and Me for the season. I am literally going to shut down for a whole quarter up until the end of this year. I've never done that before, and I've recorded over 250 videos since COVID. Right, so I'm going to take a break on the live broadcast, and I'm going to hit a lot of replays. You guys are going to hear a lot of replays coming out of my office. Some of the best of things that we produced and created in the past, and I want to make it really easy for you to successfully engage in that material. So even though you're going to be watching recorded material in this spot, the same time slot every Friday, I'm going to still be engaging in the chat and making sure that people get their questions answered and people get a chance to highlight and spotlight their business and the offerings that they have in their own business community. The whole purpose of Coffee, Tea, You and Me is to help create more engagement amongst the small business community and help them move from just being successful to thriving, all right, to creating legacy, to creating permanence and sustainable practice. That's the whole goal. That's everything I work for, everything I work towards, whether it's Coffee, Tea, You and Me, or the Roundtable, or any of the coaching programs and training development programs that I create and develop and deliver. And so if you know organizations, especially this current training program that you're watching all together now, that need helping their committees get rejuvenated and excited and organized in the most way, you're really going to want to pay attention to today's training. So having said all that, I want to be thankful and grateful for all the sponsors that I get to work with that allow me to do things like this, allow me to do our live programs, allow me to focus on our programs that are online as well as in person. We do a lot of training. We do a lot of developmental work. And my special program I love is our Leverage Up program, which we do every single quarter. And the whole goal of the Leverage Up program is to help leaders who attend that program either virtually or um, uh, physically to really come together and learn the art of collaboration so that they can leverage the time, the talent, and the treasure of the people that they move in space with. So if it's creating a better, stronger network, if it's creating opportunities for people to find advisory councils or I like to call them hero councils, hero council members or mentors or any type of support that anyone would offer in terms of consulting, advising, coaching, training and development, or even just mentoring businesses as they move through. The things we put together are so important and they're so vital to businesses. And I'll explain to you why. Statistically, even today, um, 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs will fail within their first 5 years. Getting business leaders past that first 5 year hump is incredibly important, because what's at stake? Jobs are at stake, obviously, careers are at stake, obviously, but there's also the opportunity to deliver something amazing to the universe. I don't care if you're going to just even do a franchise or a pizza place or something like that. The opportunity for you to employ others in your community, the opportunity to deliver products and services that are needed in the community is a tremendous gift. And that's why I support small businesses. That's why I try to make sure I give them the platform to do anything they want to do. So if you have a business and you want to give a shout out to your business, put your information in the chat. Go ahead and put your contact information in the chat. Go ahead and put the information about any sales or any type of programs that you have coming up. If you have a workshop or a seminar or something coming up that you're delivering, go ahead and put the links in the chat. And this week we can help you broadcast that and put that information out and promote that even more, right? If you have a discount that you're offering right now, like I'm offering a super discount for entrepreneurs and business leaders who are just getting started, 50% off everything I put in my shop, which is the sponsoring of Leverage Up for the whole year, my full Vision Quest 90 process, all of the connections and content that I deliver consistently. You'll show up as a sponsor. You'll show up as a connection in terms of that regard. So make sure you pay attention to that kind of stuff. Make sure that you are engaged in that stuff. Put it in the chat. Let's talk. My number's scrolling across the screen. There's no reason why you can't reach out to me with a question about anything that's going to help you move yourself and your business forward. This is Coffee Tea You and Me with Coach Powell, Coach Powell Training Development. Let's get this party started. I'm so glad that we have a couple of people watching us from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So good to see you. I am interested and fascinated to hear from you, to hear about you, to work with you on today's training. We're going to do a capstone kind of review of all the things we've been talking about over the last 6 weeks. If you want to go into deep detail about any segment of our training today, which is based on literally, I don't know how I'm going to start to move in that direction, but we're going to move it back to where it's supposed to be. Ha, 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 ha. There we go. We're talking about our Committee Strong training. And let me make sure I got this background right. And that's going to end a lot of the noise back there. And I'll be able to do this the right way. I like that. Do I like that? I don't know. Let's make it easy. I want to make it easier for you all to see the training to go through. Anyway, this document, this Committee Strong training manual, this guide is literally everything I've been working on and pulling together for the last 6 weeks. And you'll find that there are stories in here. There are all kinds of entertaining opportunities in here. There's all kinds of training involved with everything that you're going to need to make sure that the committees that you work on are strong, are really representative of something that everybody in you want to make sure that all that capability and all that talent doesn't go to waste when it comes to the committees that you're dealing with. So if you see here, you're looking on the first page, what you're going to see right off the bat, right, is a quote from Vince Lombardi, one of my favorite guys. Vince Lombardi says, individual commitment is a group effort. And that is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. You are going to want to make sure that the committees that you stand up, the committees that you participate in, the committees that you work on have everything and every tool that they need to do all the things they want to do. And the people that should really really think about this kind of training and understand is it people who want a fresh perspective, if you want to focus expertise and professional contribution, if you want to checks and balances for fair governments, if you need ownership, engagement, community pride, if you need diverse perspectives and better decisions, transparency and trust building, stronger bonds and social cohesion, increased participation and inclusive engagement, this is the training for you. Literally, I have here, and if you see on page 2, there's several quotes that are out there that will help you put your team and yourself in the mindset of receiving this training. I've already read you the Vince Lombardi quote, and I love this other quote I'm going to give you. I'm not going to go through all the quotes, but I'm going to share this one with you I really love. This is Kyle Roof's quote, and he said, make sure that the meetings are worthwhile meetings, that they aren't just for the sake of getting together, but they are actually doing something, and that the right people are together. This is a critically important mindset, to start to develop and have. If you look on page 3, this is all about how you get it right. Why you should be thinking about organizing your hybrid committees and what you should be thinking about doing to get it right. Literally, if you do this right, you're going to set the tone for your organizational culture. You're going to be, no matter what the committee is. So you might be on a board, or you might be on a standard committee, or whatever the committee is that you're dealing with um, in your organization, whether it's a volunteer or for-profit organization. Doing the committee work that you need to do correctly sets the tone for the whole organizational culture. Everybody's going to see it if you do it right. Everybody's going to understand that this is the committee to be on. If you're leading that committee, great for you, good for you. If you're participating in that committee, good for you. These are, when it's done right, these committees control all the levers of scale. So they're able to grow any program, any event, any effort, whether that's if you're going to create a task force that's responsible for creating a document that can then be used, or a program that can then be used to grow the organization in a massive way. That's what you want. You want you want to be able to do all the things that we're going to talk about in this training, and then we're going to use in this training. Good, strong committees are where we get the next leaders in associations and nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations, people who are able to work well with others because they're demonstrating that talent in committee, right? Committees help organizations unlock untapped talent. I can't say this once. If you got some skills that you have, or some abilities that you have, that you need to have a platform in order to share that talent so people can see you and get you out of whatever box that you might be in your organization, then join the committee and take these lessons that we're going to be teaching you, we've taught over the last couple of weeks, to heart, and move those committees forward, right? When these committees are functioning well, they protect the mission integrity. And I can't speak to that more importantly than anything else. The reason why your organization exists, the reason why your committee exists, is to do something, to create something, to generate something, to iterate something, to explore something, right? And you want that committee to be functioning super well. There are so many benefits to getting this done right. And I mean personal benefits, not just organizational benefits, but personal benefits. When you are functioning on a high function committee, and you are a participant and actively engaged in that committee, you're going to have the benefit of fresh perspective and innovative solutions. Meaning, your team is going to be able to have new ideas and challenge entrenched routines. You're going to be able to help lead your organization in a future in a way that's going to be moving forward and not backwards, right? You're going to get to deal with and be one of the focused experts that contribute their level of professionalism to the committee. You're not going to have a whole bunch of lumps on this committee. What I mean, and you know what I'm talking about when I say that. You're not going to have a whole bunch of people who are just sitting there who are on committee just to be on committee. You're going to have, an active, engaged group of people who are delivering their best efforts, which means you get to sneaky peek over into somebody else's skill set and somebody else's talent, which means you get to be seen by them, they get to be seen by you, and you get to build a high level of trust and energy. All right. Um, the checks and balances for fair governance are going to be clear. You're going to be able to see everything that you're supposed to see as a committee member. You're not going to be having these unclear, unbalanced moments where you don't know what's going on and they don't know what's going on and no one's really sure about how to do what because you got this authoritative, leader who's not doing a good job of really taking advantage of all the time, talent, and treasure that the committee members offer, right? In a way that's good for each and every committee member. Now, the next thing you're going to see is a level of ownership and engagement and community pride. I can't stress enough how important this is. You don't want people on the committee who are going to be a drag, who are going to be impossible to work with. You want people on the committee who understand open-mindedness and can really deal with diverse perspectives so that when they make decisions about what they're going to do, when they innovate, when they create new things that maybe that organization hasn't participated or done or done in the past, they come with a sense of authenticity and strength and belief and everything they need to have in order to move things forward. All right. And because there's transparency, there is trust. When you have a great committee, no one's second guessing, right? No one's dealing with doubt, fear, blame, shame, none of that stuff. It's all positive, it's all open. All the stakeholders are bought in, all the early decision-making processes are done well. And what tends to happen is there's a level of trust that then creates speed. If you take the time early in the formation of the committee to build the trust within the members of the committee or rebuild the trust within new members of the committee as they come on, because there's going to be new members coming on the committee as you move forward, because you're going to want to strengthen, and we'll talk about the pillars in just a second. You're going to want to strengthen all the various pillars that help the committee move forward. Stronger bonds and social cohesion. Obviously, if you've participated in a great committee in the past, you realize, and I know I have on many occasions, you realize that you become a unit. The people that you work with on that committee and the people that, you may be connected with and collected together, whether it's a haphazard collection or an intentional forward-thinking collection, right? There's a bond that is created from you working on a project together. And it's a beautiful bond, and it's a great way if you do it right. If you do it, and I suggest you do it with intention, right? You make sure that everybody is seen, everybody is heard, everybody feels understood, because that's where a sense of belonging starts to show up. The next thing you're going to have, and when you have a great committee, is you're going to have a level of increased participation, and you're going to have a guaranteed understanding of inclusive engagement. I promise you, and all the neurological things that you need to think about are going to be right there in lockstep. Now, none of it can work if you don't get the structure right. If you don't get the structure right, if you don't use the right model, that's what we're talking about here in the 5 pillars model, right? If you don't use the right model, then it's all going to break down, right? And the right model exists in these 5 pillars. If you look at the pie chart that's in front of you, you're going to see there's people who are on the committee that need to be, and I would say 2 to 3 people, that need to be in community engagement. Right? These are the people who are doing all the outreach. These are the people who are, creating the town halls, the pop-ups. They're creating the surveys, the need assessments. They're making sure those are high quality surveys, and they're making sure that they're delivered in a way that is going to be acceptable to the communities that you serve. These people are important because they're getting you the active feedback you need from the community to know that the committee is moving in the right direction and continually to move in the right direction. You need to have people who are focused on community engagement. You also need to have people who are focused on operations logistics. Again, 2 to 3 people, not one person, but 2 to 3 people that can function in this one pillar, right? These people are going to be the people who are going to be looking out for places and time that are useful to meet. They're going to be making sure that the safety protocols are correct. Even if you're meeting online, they're going to be making sure that the room, the virtual room that you're doing is secure, and there's not people popping in with all kinds of craziness. And if it's recorded and easily recorded for future, then it's going to be, there. You're going to make sure you have all the tools. You know how to use all the tools. If you're using a dashboard online, if you are using some type of um, of connections, when it comes to getting the right uh, toolkits involved. So, like if you have a whiteboard, or if you have some kind of chat room, or if you have some kind of side room that you're using online where you're doing some work, and you're coming back into the other room to discuss, and your breakout sessions, all that kind of stuff, you need to learn how to use all the tools. And these people, operations, logistic people, are going to be responsible for making sure it actually happens. The tech setups, the live stream, everything that needs to happen in order for everything to function the way it needs to function. And then you're going to have your pillar that's discovering your digital technology. These are the people that literally are going to be responsible for creating the websites, or developing the portion of the web page that needs to be developed for your organization. They're going to be responsible for the social media campaigns, the email campaigns. They're going to manage all the data as it comes back from the surveys or whatever else you collect from the committee members, as well as the public in large. They're going to be hosting the virtual platform and be able to support that kind of stuff, and making sure that it's accessible to the right people in the right way, so that people know how to use it, right? And then you're going to have your volunteer support and training people. These people are critical to make sure that as you expand the committee, you're pulling in the right people. You're onboarding them correctly, so they don't feel like they're behind the eight ball, or they don't feel like they don't know what's going on. They know they have all the documents, they have all the assignments, they understand who to go to ask questions, who's going to be their mentor, who's going to be the person that they're going to use. They understand all the online modules in terms of if they have to go take some type of training somewhere. You've already pointed that out, and it could be some simple stuff. It really could be, watch this TED talk so that you can get in the right mindset of what we want our committee to be about. Or you can learn this technique. You can take this course that we're paying for you to take, on one of the MOOC platforms that we've discovered that is useful, right? These things are very, very important for committee members to know, that they have the backing of the larger committee, the chairs, and all that kind of stuff, to make sure they're getting what they need to get to develop themselves, to develop their talents. Let's just say, for example, I'm a great fundraiser, right? And I'm already good in terms of knowing a lot about fundraising. I'm the person on the committee, on the fundraising committee, you want to tap to train other people who want to learn more about fundraising, who want to learn how to do it. You tap me to put together a workshop, or some kind of process that will help other committee members, especially those that are in that same um, pipeline, in that same skill set process. You want to make sure that there are people that they're getting the mentoring, they're getting the training, they're getting what they need. Especially, by the way, if it could be certified, even better. If you have a person who happens to be on, say, the CFRE, right, which was the Center for Fundraising Excellence, right? These people who have that certification can actually share all the information that they need to share in order to help the partners in that particular channel to upgrade their skills and learn how to do this thing correctly. And so you want to recruit people who have uh, high expertise, as well as people who are novices in certain parts of the channel. And let's go back to that pie chart I showed you, right? So each part of these pillars, each one of these 5 pillars, is a different level of engagement and foundational work that has to be done. And if you do that, if you organize your committees in these 5 pillars, now what does that mean? If I say you got to have 2 or 3 people in each pillar, how many people do you need to have on your committee? Right? That's at least 15. you know, because we're also talking about making sure that you have a leader of the committee and an assistant leader of the committee, right? And the leader of the committee is the one that makes sure that all the reports and everything that needs to go up to the higher organization go up in a way that's going to be conducive of highlighting and spotlighting each and every one of the talented committee members that they have going on. And the the vice chairman of the committee or the assistant or associate member of the committee is going to be responsible for making sure that all the pillars are actually functioning and they're actually meeting, not in the committee meeting, outside of the committee meeting. I hope you guys get that and understand that. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, Marvin. This is impossible. First of all, nobody has enough committee members and nobody has enough talent on the committee members that they need to have. And I'm saying there's a reason for that. There's a reason why, even if you're in a volunteer or association or whatever organizations you belong to, that you can't find people who are willing to organize because they don't see the benefits, right? And go back over those first benefits that I laid out for you. If you are brilliant at articulating the benefits of belonging and joining this particular committee, then you're going to find that there are people in your organization, your association, your leadership strategy, your cohort, whatever it is you're doing, that want to be on that committee. And they want to be there because not just because there's a dynamic leader, but because they know they're going to get something out of the participation and engagement in the committee that's going to be conducive to their own professional development, their skill sets, and so on and so forth. I hope you get where I'm coming from. So on page 9, we're talking about the skills that are required, right? To be on the committee as well as to run the committee. There's nobody who gets out of being able to have these basic core skills, right? You need to be able to have clear, structured communication, which means you have to communicate intentionally and correctly, right? You need to be able to facilitate, you know, meetings and hybrid meetings, and not just hybrid meetings, but pillar meetings. You need to be able to do that exceptionally well. You need to work well with others, and or be willing to learn how to work well with others. You have to be able to practice equity and fairness. If you're the person who's always showing up, with judgment, with blame, shame, with intimidation, you're not going to be the person that people want to work with. And you're going to have to really, really, strike that from your personality when it comes to working with other people. Because, no one wants to be bullied. No one wants to, especially volunteers. Nobody wants to volunteer to be bullied, or voluntold, or pushed around. No one wants that. Okay. The other thing, the skill set you got to have is you got to have some outcome-based management systems, right? You cannot just wing it, right? You need to understand what the outcomes is that you're looking for, and you need to have systems in place and understand how to use those systems to really manage the process to completion, right? This trust building at a distance. How are you going to do this stuff, virtually, like we're doing right now? The many of you who are watching this, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it later on demand, you got to have some engaging qualities that will help you cultivate a level of authenticity and visibility. And if that means you got to have breakout sessions or one-to-ones, or you got to go virtual office hours, or you really work with people in smaller groups, these are things that help create a key psychological safety, right? You cannot do it. If you're not going to build psychological safety, you won't have trust. And if you don't have trust, I promise you, you're going to slow down the gears of everything that you're doing, because it's going to be doubt. It's going to be fear. There's going to be blame. There's going to be shame. There's going to be all those negative emotions involved with dealing with everything. Now, number 6 is clear, right? You got to be tech savvy. Nobody on the committee can afford to be like, well, I don't want to use Teams, or I don't want to use Zoom, or I don't want to use whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not willing to learn a new way of doing this, right? No matter what you are doing, you're going to have to be willing to provide training to people because they're not going to tell you. Yeah, they'll ask them, can you use Zoom? And you'll go, yes, I can use Zoom. And they don't know how to use any of the functions, the core functions that you maybe plugins or anything that you've bought to to enrich the experience. They may not feel comfortable coming on camera. They may not, and they need to learn how to do that well so that they can be engaged. Like right now, I'm looking at the camera, right? So I'm looking at you in your eye, face to face. I'm communicating with you face to face, right? Now, if I'm looking over here at my own picture, right, it looks like I'm not really engaged with the audience. So I have to consciously remind myself to make sure I'm looking at the camera. These are just human touch things that you have to learn when you're engaging with technology. How do you use that technology to still maintain a level of presence? I'm not going to say executive presence because everybody on the community in a committee, not necessarily executive, but it's how you learn to authentically show up. It's not just about your background or, how you dress and how you, because you're not shaking hands and you're not doing the things that you typically would do to build rapport. You're actually engaging. You have to show interest in what other people are saying. You have to be able to nod and smile when it's time to nod and smile. And if you're not paying attention or if you're not authentically engaging with the people who are in the room, then you're going to find that you don't have that human touch that is needed again to build a human connection. The next skill that you have to have if you're going to participate in one of these hybrid committees is you have to be able to be adaptable and focus on continuous improvement. I've seen 80 and 90-year-olds use these tools to connect with their grandchildren and connect with their family members. And once they figure it out, it's just like using a telephone, right? It's just like, so there's no excuse really. If you have the cognitive ability and you have your fingers, right, you can show up and engage in an online community and do it exceptionally well. When my family was dealing with COVID, we didn't stop our family reunion. We just moved it online. And then when we moved it online, nobody wanted to go back to just doing it in all face to face anymore. So our meetings and our committee meetings kept being hybrid committee meetings. And that's a good thing because it allows more people to participate. And nobody has to get up and drive, hundreds of miles somewhere. Nobody has to get a hotel stay and put all that money in gas and take so much time away from their house and so on and so forth on a weekend to function on the board or the standing committee for the organization, which is our family, right? I have a family board and a family standing committee, right? So these are things that are important, right? You gotta be able to use this. You gotta be able to adapt and continuously improve. You can't just sit still and go, well, you can do that, but then you're gonna be part of the problem. You're not gonna be part of the solution, right? 8, this is critically important. Data-driven decision making. This is a skill, right? If you're going to say, I want to do this or we want to do this, and you have no data to back it up as to why you're doing it, like I said earlier today, right? I believe in small businesses, but I understand what problems the small businesses are having. 450,000 small businesses are coming online every day in the United States of America. And 9 out of 10 of them are going to be out of business in the first 5 years if there's not somebody that intercedes and gives them and empowers them in the ways that they need to be empowered in order to break through whatever setbacks or whatever obstacles that are in their way. But there's data that drives that, right? There's not. I'm not going, oh, small businesses have a problem and I don't have any data to back that up. I got plenty of data to back that up, and that's just one of a few statistics that matter most. So you got to be willing to drive your decisions with the data. And as you receive new data, you need to be able to adjust those decisions. So if you're not a part, and every committee member again has to have this capacity. Number 9, emotional intelligence and cultural agility. You need to be able to put yourself in the shoes of others and have empathy and make sure that you're listening in a high quality way. It's hard enough to express yourself, your thoughts, and your ideas online when you're not really looking at a person because they have all of they're all already blacked out already. They're already not showing up on camera. You can't see their facial expressions. You don't know whether they have a question on their mind or whether they are excited and engaged. You don't know because they're not showing up on camera, right? And it messes with you because how do you know they're paying attention? How do you know that your whatever you're saying is coming across? Or how do you know that they don't understand whatever you're saying? Or you have no way of knowing if you can't use the tools correctly and if you can't foster emotional intelligence by using the tools correctly. And then there's cultural agility. That is the ability to understand the cultural perspective where someone may be coming from, and you want to have a committee that's as diverse as you can get it, right? Because you're going to want to have different age groups represented. You're going to have different ethnicities represented if you can. You want to have different types of people because if you have a homogeneous group, all the ideas and everything are going to come from exactly the same place. And that is no place for innovation and creativity. If you need a committee that has to function on a high level and continually grow, like you already mentioned continual growth, you need to have that kind of diversity on your committee. Second thing, or the last thing I'm going to mention when it comes to the skill set of these committee members and the committee leaders is you need to be wonderfully engaged in stakeholder management and activation, right? You cannot have a committee that serves people but not be interested in the people that you intend to serve. I understand that, yes, you can have all these benefits for belonging to the committee for yourself. You can develop your skills. You can showcase your talent. You can get to build camaraderie with your friends, make new friends and associates because of the work that you get to do. All these personal, you can have a sense of belonging. You can be tied to the organization in a way that you want to be tied to the organization. Like in my organization, Phi Beta Sigma, I'm the bigger and better business guy. I'm all about economic development. And that's a program that we have and we started for 1926, and I'm all about that program. I do care about the other programs we do, social stuff and educational stuff. I do care about that stuff, but I'm most concerned about the economic development stuff. How we teach people how to be financially well. How do we teach people how to stabilize their businesses? How do we teach people how to get engaged in their community using their business? These are the things I'm all about. This is our program. So I want to make sure that I'm always going to be tied to that program. That's how I identify myself as a member of our organization is because of this program. And if I didn't have this program, I wouldn't be as connected or as engaged. I just wouldn't because that's the route to engagement that I discovered. It's through the committees, it's through the programs, it's through the things that we get to work on and things we get to come together and work through. But when the committees don't function well, nothing functions well. So it's important. Now, I have here on page 11 a lot of resources that you're going to use in almost every section I have. There's more resources and connections. You can go back and these are live links that you can use to qualify the material and make sure that you are getting the most out of this. So definitely check the resources out, even if you don't take a deep dive like I had to do to understand all this stuff. It's very, very important that you at least are familiar with the resources. So click through them, read a couple of lines here and there, and then you can come back out and then deal with the information that we share with you. Now, the reason why I have these common excuses here, a lot of people don't like committee work, and they have all kinds of excuses of why committee work won't work or hybrid committees won't work, and this is bad and that's bad and blah, 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 woe is me. They have all these, and I just listed those down for you to understand. You have to come up with strategies to combat these concerns. If you're on the committee, if you're a part of the committee, you gotta deal with it. I promise you, there's gonna be tech resistance. I promise you, there's people gonna be like, well, I'm not sure if this is the best way for us to truly engage and blah, blah, blah. You're gonna have people who are like, well, we never did it that way. We always used to do it this way. So I don't want to go back and change it. Like the world is not going back to the way it used to be. It's only moving forward, right? And some people are going to get overwhelmed, like it's just so much change at one time, and you need to be nurturing and kind and bring them along, right? There's going to be gaps in their thought processes and gaps in their training. All these different things are out there, and you got to have some way of mitigating the risk, right? I found that there are 4 myths that people deal with when they're usually dealing with committees. And the myths are simple. People literally hate um, the committees for a couple of reasons. They don't think committees can be trusted because it takes a long time, right? You have to coordinate and collaborate. You have to communicate with people, and it takes a lot of energy to do all that, especially if you're going to use hybrid tools and online methodologies and strategies, right? That people say committees lack innovation, usually because they're so homogenous, right? Because birds of a feather flock together. People tend to work on the committees of their friends and things that they like to do, and they don't really want to invite new people into the committee, and that's the truth. These are really reasons. These are myths, but they're also ways to, like if you follow the 5 pillars model that we shared with you earlier, you're going to bust through these myths. They're not even people say committees are stupid because they're so slow that it takes them a while. They got to collect a lot of data. They got to analyze a lot of material. They got to make sure that everybody is on board and moving forward before they come back to the larger organization and say, here's what we recommend, here's what we suggest. And they can't, and either somebody has some kind of crazy passion that about it, but nobody else agrees on the committee, and they have to be delivering the report. Then they deliver a report that's skewed in a direction, right? You don't want that. You don't want them showing up with that kind of work, right? And then some people just flat out believe that committee work isn't real work. And we go through those myths and different strategies that may overcome those myths in the next couple of pages. I love this talk when it comes to a couple pages. Just page 15. This first thought that, your committee role assignments and workflows. The reason why you have the hybrid breakdown of these 5 pillars is because you want to make sure that each and every one of these sections of your committee is highly functional and working well. Let me repeat. The reason why you want your committee to have enough people that you can break them down into the 5 pillars and not doing the thing that they begrudgingly want to do, but thing that they really want to do. If there's going to be, if you're a community, engagement person, you want to serve on the committee in that capacity. If you're an operations logistic minded person, you want to serve on the committee in that capacity. If you are all about digital and technology, again, you want to serve on the committee in that capacity. Because when you're serving in that capacity, you're strengthening a strength you already have. I can't stress that enough. Now, there's also the deputy liaison or the assistant, or you may say the vice committee chairperson, right? That person keeps all of the pillars moving. That person is the one that keeps all the tasks and all the goals and all the techniques and the strategies, and they keep coming back to whatever dashboard they're using or whatever reporting format that they're using back to the committee leader when the committee is not meeting, so they know what's going on in all of the subcategories and all the pillars, right? And they're organizing information, and they're sharing it out with other pillar leads. They got this is what is going on over here, and this is going on over here, and this how they're going to be almost finished with the website, going to be finished with this that date. That's why we need you to come through with this whatever you got to come through with in order to make that work, right? Task teams, very important. You're going to have times when each of the pillars need to meet with other members of other pillars in order to function correctly. So these might be cross-pillar task squads, right? Or they have a specific deliverable for an event or a campaign. And then when that's done, they're dissolved. It's the same thing for the larger committee. Sometimes you have a larger standing committee. Sometimes you have a committee that is only there for a short time. But this next section is super important. And I want you, if you get a chance, to click through the links here in this page where they say inspiration isn't enough. This is about Chris Gundar, and his information is right there on the page. So I'm not going to bore you with it, but his story is amazing. He has an amazing TED Talk that if you watch that TED Talk, I promise you, you're going to be inspired to function in your committees in a more meaningful and useful way. And again, this is more details on that process that Chris is using, which is the 5-step model and different projects that we've gone through there. And I want to get to here. There's a mindset that you have to embrace to really, really understand these 5 pillars and to grace and to grow with them, right? And again, these things are reflective of the total committee, not just the leader. Of course, the leader has to model all of this stuff, but everybody in the team, everybody on the task force, everybody that's participating in the program has to have these skills. You have to have a growth and learning orientation. You have to be about purpose and have a service focus, right? If you don't have a service focus, a service mindset, servant leader, kind of thing, you're not going to function well. If you have to be able to collaborate and have an empathetic stance, right? Try to understand the people that you're working with. Try to understand the people that you're serving. Try to figure out ways to make it more useful and meaningful to everybody. Have a reflective and adaptive attitude. If you're not taking notes about, what you've learned during the committee meeting process or whatever, it's difficult to have something to reflect on, right? If you're just relying on your memory, then it's not likely that you're going to be able to do that and function well, right? So you want to have you want to be able to jot down some notes, some to-dos, some tasks, something that you want to remember for later reflection, so that when you do that later reflection, you're locking in that learning, you're locking in that information or whatever it is that you do. Because if not, then you're relying on your memory, and I promise you, you're going to get overwhelmed quickly, not just with the committee work, but with your life. Things are going to happen, and you're going to remember, oh, I forgot I was supposed to deliver that report to brother so-and-so, and I didn't do it, and now I got to go back and apologize. And it's just make it easy for yourself to stay reflective and stay in a mindset of what's next, what do I got to do next, how do we have to function next, what do we have to talk about next, right? Ownership and accountability, that's the same thing, right? Making sure that you are taking responsibility for the things that you should be taking responsibility for, and being accountable for the things that you should be being accountable for, but also helping others do the same, right? It's not enough that you're doing your part, right? If you're not helping somebody else do their part, then you don't know when they're struggling. You don't know when things aren't working right. You got to function on that level. The last thing you want to do is you want to have a celebration and gratitude mindset. I can't stand functioning on a committee and it's just work, 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 and there's no fun, right? You want to make sure that the committee is having fun. If that means you're doing a game night, a virtual game night, just for the committee to just blow off some steam and get to know each other. Maybe you're having a cup of coffee together, you're taking a break together. Maybe you put some time in the committee meeting to do some fun kick off things that you want to do. There's all kinds of processes and programs that you can implement, but you got to keep the fun in the fun, and you got to be willing to go with a ton of gratitude. Now, also, there's a couple stories in here because I want people to understand. There's a couple stories of personal stories, and this is about Anton and Emily. And their stories, and there's a lot of details about their stories, and you can go in and read that, check it out. That'll help you get a viewpoint of various people who have participated in various different kind of committees and engaged in different type of committees and what they've done. It's great. Those are great stories to think and to share when you are, trying to recruit people onto your committee, right? It's the same thing. We got some corporate stories in here too. This page 24, is crucial. This particular page is all about KPIs. What are your key performance indicators? Say it with me. Key performance indicators. How do you know the community engagement piece of your committee is working well? How do you know the operational logistics are working well? Well, how do you know the digital and technology committees is working well? How do you know that the volunteer and support training is working well? How do you know the partnership and fundraising group is working well? And a great way to start to measure that is to ask questions, right? Ask questions and ask questions ahead and ask questions during and after the process of what you're doing, right? So you're going to say, okay, what can we be, do, and have when we're finished this process? What will this committee and community engagement program will be able to be, do, and have? That's the future vision, right? That's what that is. And but in answering that question, you're also coming up with goals that have to be met before you get to that greater vision. And you can figure out how to put those goals into and break them down into tasks that have to happen. And then all you're doing is measuring the trajectory from where you are today to where you're going to be in the future. And you could come up with things like net promoter scores, and you could come up with all kinds of assessments and tools that you can use to measure your performance, the performance of the total committee and each of the committee. Now, I suggest a scoreboard where everybody can see. Here's where each of the 5 pillars was as a result of this date, and here's where they are as a result of that date, and here's where they're going the next date, and here are their different suspenses, and here's their different. I suggest a big public whiteboard or something or some kind of Excel spreadsheet that you can share digitally, right? And put up on the screen, just like I'm putting this up on the screen, so people can see every time your committee gets together where each and every one of the pillars are in the process towards whatever the finished goal is for the total committee. All right. Recruiting and onboarding best practices. I can't stress enough how important that is. Your initial start of a committee, no matter where you are, right, whether you're a leader or a member, is not going to be the final committee, because you're going to find out that you're going to need people that are helping to do things that you don't have the skill sets, the talent, the ability to do. Very rarely does a fully functional committee start off as a fully functional committee. So you have to have a recruitment plan. How do you go deeper into the membership and pull out the people that need to be working? You have to have an onboarding framework. How do you make sure when you bring these new people on board to the committee who may not have been around for the first strategic planning session or may not have been around for the first information and onboarding session, right? Now you got to go back and get them up to speed and make sure they feel a sense of belonging, just like the committee members that have been there. Some people have been in the same committee for 20 years, and then so they have the committee history. They have an understanding of what happened in the past. They can spend some time with your newer members, getting them caught up as to where you're moving forward today and where you're coming from. Very, very important. I'm not going to go through these today because I'm running out of time, but the neurological benefits of being involved and leading high performing committees are serious. You are going to want to experience all of these benefits. You're going to want to be able to make sure that your body is pumping out dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and all the other good hormones that keep you moving forward, that put you in a flow state, that helps you understand that your brain is functioning at a high level, because you want to be able to give your best to the committees that you're committed to. You don't want to be one of these people like, oh, I'm just so tired, or I'm just so worn out, I just can't get it done, and I don't know how to do. So, understanding these benefits and understanding how to get to these benefits is serious. And I'm going back, starting with page 26. You got to go get those, and you got to understand how those function so that you can help others also receive the kind of benefits that they can receive from belonging to a great committee. Now, what's left on this document is again, these are the corporate stories, right? So that are there for you to go through and get. And then I have an example of a self-assessment. This is my favorite, section 33. Look forward to section 33, right? Or page 33 in this form, because these self-assessments can be used to help you understand where your committee is broken, where your committee members are hurting or in need of some development, and you'll understand and they'll understand, what development they need. And so I would start off the committees, and I wouldn't let anybody come on to the committee who hadn't completed this assessment, because I need to know as a committee member, as a leader, as a person, you know, where they are in their development professionally, and how they're going to be able to function on the committee. And you want them just to kind of have an understanding of these high ideas, right? And be able to run through them and take these assessments. One thing I love about this assessment is it's basically yes or no questions, right? But these yes or no questions can also be turned into personal affirmations later on. You could turn them into SMART goals later on. You could count the number of no's that are out there, and then develop a whole training curriculum around the vital no's that you have out there for people. So it's very good to do. This is an example of an endowment campaign that I put together years ago, and it's a sample, it's an example, right? So understand that if you wanted to, create help create a committee. This is a separate committee. An endowment campaign is a separate committee that's put together through, some staff, some board members, some volunteers, whoever you find to participate in this committee. This is a good strategy to run the whole entire committee from start to finish, right? And you can download that and take it and do whatever you want to do with it, right? It's step by step breakdown, a strategy of everything you need to have and everything you need to know to make that function. This next section is really an understanding of what happened with Project 2025. Now, whether you are pissed about Project 2025 or you're happy about Project 2025, it doesn't matter. Understanding that this is one of the strongest task force and committees that have ever been put together, right, to accomplish the agenda that it was associated that it intended to achieve. And a major part of that agenda was the actual written document, Project 2025, and all of its core deliverables. And this shows you kind of how it was all put together and how it was all structured and run. And I wanted to show you guys that not just, I'm not glorifying Project 2025 at all, because I don't believe in it. I don't like it. Listen, I'll put that out there. Right. But I do understand this is when you want to get group of people together from cross sections, from all different points of views, and within a framework. This is a great example of how powerful it can be when they make it work, right? This is a training curriculum, right, for people to start to understand all of those KPIs we talked about earlier, right? How do you train people? How do you train them how do you get them trained up to deliver it? So if I was delivering this program to a nonprofit organization or for-profit organization, I would use a format, something similar to this, so that I can help them strengthen the committees that they have and the committee leadership that they have, right? And I think that's all. If there's anything more on here, yep, that's it. That's 49 pages of high quality training and research and resources and tools and techniques. I don't think you're going to be able to get this anywhere else. If you need any help, again, my number is scrolling across the screen, and it is at the bottom of every page of this whole program. So download the program, put it on your own profile. If you have questions, feel free to call. If we need to put a group chat together just about this, so that people can have something to refer to or do that, we'll do that. But I got to have interest in order to make that happen. So I hope you guys enjoyed the training. I hope you guys will share it with other people. This is the capstone. All right. So if you've watched any of the other previous episodes, you're going to find that the document isn't finished. This is the finished document that you're looking at right now on the screen. And I want to make sure that it's accessible and useful to you all, because I've been building it as I've been building this training. That's why we didn't start off with a fully finished document. So, and I told you guys that before. Now, of course, yes. So before you answer it, did Marvin write every word on this page? Absolutely not. I took advantage of, making sure I was doing some good prompt engineering on my AI to create most of this. But I fact checked it all. It's very good. And it's very, very useful and very, very, very meaningful. If you need any help with you and your organizations, feel free to reach out and get in contact with me. This is Coach Powell with Coffee Tea, You and Me. This is the last episode before we go on hiatus, guys. And so you can be watching the replays until through Christmas in January. But I'll still be available for you to engage with me in the chats and all the different things that are all the different tools we're putting up. So stay focused, stay attention. Find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and let's see if we can connect and make a better opportunity happen for you and your organization. God bless you, and I'm out of here.